Hi, everybody. Welcome to our second roundtable for the March of April. Hopefully you were able to catch our roundtable yesterday celebrating Black Women's History Month, where we had a wonderful discussion about the term Black, the term person of color, and I hope that you learned a lot from our participants and their life experience. April is also Celebrate Diversity Month, which all of this is very, very new to me, guys. I didn't even know that any of these celebrations existed until we started to do research in my office. So in honor of Celebrate Diversity Month, I have awesome guests today from different walks of life who are going to talk about their experience with diversity and inclusion, whether they're at the beginning of their journey or whether they are experts in the field. So without further ado, I'm going to let our guests and panelists introduce themselves so that you can get to know a little bit more about them, and then we'll dive right into it. So we had a wonderful discussion about the term. Without further ado, we'll let our guests introduce. I think there's feedback. I think I'm speaking twice. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Aya, why don't you tell us where you're from, what you do, and who you serve, and what your journey of diversity and inclusion has been thus far?
Okay, I might need you to repeat that because that's a lot. But my name is Aya and I currently live in central Massachusetts. I am the CEO and owner and founder and everything else of my company, Tiny Dragon Bites. So what we do a lot of content creation and strategy, as well as aligning that with website design to be able to provide a unique digital marketing experience for our local clients, such as small business owners. It's not industry specific, but we work with everybody to be able to help them grow.
So what has been your experience with your journey in diversity and inclusion and understanding those terms and how it applies to you?
Absolutely. So it's been a unique experience because I grew up in a mixed race household. I am Japanese, Irish, and Italian. So it's definitely been a unique experience of my own. Growing up in that type of household. We grew up in Lowell, Mass, and then I moved down here in central Massachusetts. And especially with the recent events going on in Georgia, in Europe, as well as the entire Black Lives Matter movement that's come to the forefront, is I feel like it's very important to be strong about your diversity as well as your inclusion, especially when it comes to people of color, BIPOC. Trans Visibility Day was, I believe, yesterday as well. So all of those things are absolutely important to be able to be inclusive and diverse with everybody that you come across, because you just don't know their experiences.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I feel like the last couple of maybe months or maybe year or maybe COVID has really forced us to really start examining in depth our practices, both as professionals and as regular people in our day-to-day life. So Fred, why don't you tell us about where you're from, what you do,
yeah, sure.
who you serve, and your experience in the diversity and inclusion journey?
Thank you for, first of all, to having me in this conversation, because I'm very excited, and also it's my first time that I'm joining a roundtable abroad Italy about diversity and inclusion specifically. So my background, I was born and raised in Italy. My father is from West Africa, Ghana. My mother is an Italian Jew. I lived for an entire life in Italy since I moved in 2012 to United States, in particular to New York, and this was my baptizing into a diversity environment and into also this word, diversity and inclusion. I didn't hear it before in Italy, and I say, oh, this is cool, it looks like me, or something like that. But it's more, of course, diversity, inclusion, and equity. So my journey was as a filmmaker of storytelling about diversity in contemporary Italy. My field is producing documentaries that are telling the history of minorities in Italy, and my market in particular is also the educational market of the university and college in the United States, but also in other countries. And I really understood how you are going to study Italian culture, Italian contemporary culture and society, but they offer the Italian or the Italy of 20 or 40 years ago. So you are not understanding that also Italy is very diverse. So my work right now is really focused to bring the conversation about diversity inclusion in Italy. In particular, I had the opportunity to work with some small important company like a team that is a Vodafone Career, Netflix Italy, but we have a lot of work to do, and my focus is in particular diversity inclusion inside the media representation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm particularly excited that you are working with Netflix. I tell my husband all the time, who's Italian, we've got to support Netflix because Netflix has had mixed and minority Italian protagonists in their stories. And I'm thinking specifically about the film Summertime, which is about a mixed, it's like a regular story, you know, summertime in Italy, which is very romantic on the beach, and a mixed Italian girl falls in love with a guy. We don't really see those, you know, regular storylines on Italian mainstream media. So very exciting for you, Fred. Thank you so much. So Heli, why don't you tell us where you're from, what you do, what your work focuses on, and what your journey of diversity, inclusion has been so far?
Oh, that's a big question. It's a lot. So yes, my name is Helen Tekeste. My parents are from Eritrea, and I'm born and raised in Italy. I have a particular accent, and this is why I've been in England for a while. So I lived in Bristol as well. I have family in a few countries of the world because there was a long war in Eritrea. So my family is a bit in Germany, a bit in UK, a bit in the USA, Sweden. So it's a diasporic family. What I do, so I do for a living teaching. So I taught in a vocational school. I taught English and mathematics, economics. And I'm actually graduated in economics and statistics and social sciences. And my, yes, I have a journey. I have a journey in diversity, as you can see. So I'm a Black Italian, and I can prove it. Parlo perfettamente italiano, if I need to switch. And I also speak a little bit of French. I speak as well a little bit of my language of origin, which is Tigrinya. So my diversity, I think it started from my childhood. I was engaged since I was a little baby in few different environments. So the one at home and the one in school. So I think the journey for me started really early, but then I started to engage in the history of Eritrea. So I chose to study economics because I wanted to participate more in what was the Eritrea, the new Eritrean state. So I started to translate articles, and this is why I studied more English, because I wanted to be to raise my awareness and my understanding, and almost all the literature was in English. But then I also got more involved in the political activism in Italy when I started to understand I was as the other, but I was also something else. So I've took part in a network that is G2 network, is a national network of second generation in Italy. And this is why I discovered that I had an accent from Milano, but there were also Black Italians that were talking with the accent from Rome and different cities, so from Sicily, from Naples. It was really, really nice time. So I also worked as a social researcher in a foundation called ISMU, which is one of the few private institutions who are engaged on migration studies. What else? Yeah, so I'm also a mom. So I had part of my day and nighttime is about being a mom as well. So I had to stop for a while, and then I was back to work again, and I just recently started back to do research. Just after the pandemic crisis and also the rise of the Black Lives Matter in the US has really had an impact on me, and so I started to learn more. And I am now a research assistant, and thanks for this opportunity. I had this opportunity from a professor. Her name is Lorja Garcia Peña. She is professor at Harvard. And she's helped me to coming back on my studies. And this is really like it's a life journey, I think.
You've done so much, Heli. I'm so happy to share your
amazing.
But I just want to take a moment to shout out our viewers. Andrew Amima in particular has said, "We thank you for your support indeed. We are still facing the challenges, but it is part of life. Thanks for everything you have been doing for us as well. We still, we need you." So I think that maybe, Fred, this might be a friend or a colleague of yours. So thank you so much for watching, Andrew, and I hope it's helpful for you. So with that being said, guys, we've got really a very diverse panel or different types of people from different walks of life. And with that being said, I want to ask everybody, what does diversity mean? Fred, do you want to tell us what you think the word diversity means? And does it have different definitions in Italy and in the US?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm starting just for the definition, not the official definition, but how it's working right now in Italy, because I think that we need to feel a lot of things. So I understand in my life and in my experience that, of course, diversity, it's more than talking about races, religion, gender, but it's like to empower the uniqueness. So everyone is unique. We need to find a way how to make comfortable the fact that we are unique. Since we are a child, so since we are kids, we need to develop our identities in this way. In Italy, in this moment, there are a lot of efforts to bring diversity and to talk about diversity, maybe less effort about the inclusion. That is the second step that is very, of course, difficult to launch in Italy. And a part of diversity, when I talk about, for example, ethnicity, it's not really developed. So in Italy, they are talking a lot when they are talking about diversity instead of people with disability, diversity instead of gender, and the gap of gender, of course, and diversity instead of the LGBT and queer community. So these are the three main spots in which a lot of consultants, human resources, director of corporation are working. The cluster about ethnicity, honestly, it's very difficult to activate in this country, and I can see from the advertisement. So every time that I watch a lot of advertisement and of course a media project, it's very difficult to see this kind of representation. And of course, this is one of the most easiest representation to activate when you want to activate the idea of diversity as a visual, because it's much more easy, of course, it's very simple to put people with different ethnicity inside an advertisement. So and the other issue is the word, because the word look like the French word, the Italian word diversità. So it looks like more to say the otherness, the translation of diversity, and it's not that it's a translation that is pluralism. This is the real meanings, is a pluralism or accepting the unique of everyone. So we need to find also a semantic way to bypass this unconscious message that sometimes Italians understand from the word diversity.
So you mentioned the word ethnicity, and I feel like a lot of the times people mix up ethnicity, race, nationality. Do you want to give us a definition if you understand the word ethnicity and how it may or may not apply? They might all have the same definition. I'm not quite sure.
No, technically it's not always the same. So of course I missed to say also the word race. So we need to work much more inside the both sides, race and ethnicity in Italy. Ethnicity, for example, sometimes it's not a racial division. For example, a part of the German population came from different tribes, and they are white. So talking about race, they are Caucasian, but talking about ethnicity, they have different origins. And talking about religion, some of them are Catholic, others are Protestant, or so there are some difference into the social group. The same is in a place like Iran, for example. Iranians are not only from Iran, there are people who are from Azerbaijan, so the Azeri population, and actually they are very powerful inside the country of Iran, and they have the same race. So not always race doesn't mean to have the same ethnicity. And of course, in Italy, race played a major role into the diversity representation because for one thing, Italy has been really homogeneous if we're talking about religion. And so we can define a part of the Italian as one ethnicity. And for me, it's still difficult to define the race of the Italians because historically speaking, Italians were a mix of different races and ethnicities in the past since the Roman Empire. But assuming that they are white, or is the definition that most of Italians give of themselves. By the way, right now we have a 10% of different races Italian population, from Asian Italians, African Italians, and Latin Italians. So there is a lot of work to do.
Right. I think that these terms and definitions are really confusing, and sometimes, and it's very depending on your locality, right? Because when Italians were immigrating to the US, they weren't considered white. Whereas now, I think that in both America and in Italy, there's no doubt that Italians see themselves as white or part of the white race, and they do so here in America as well. So Aya, why don't you tell us what the word diversity means to you, and then maybe give us your definition of race, ethnicity, nationality, culture.
Yes, absolutely. Everything that Fred said.
Fred's the expert.
It really, so diversity is just to pretty much summarize what Fred was saying as making sure everybody is comfortable, whether it be ethnicity, race, especially with culture. You know, growing up in a mixed race household, we kind of had like a melting pot of cultures in my house. It actually made a lot of things really fun, and not just for you know, ethnicity or that specific culture. When it comes to like Japanese culture was very strong in my household, and it's not just that, but as well as, you know, religion, your beliefs, you know, morals, ethics, all of that. So my answer is probably not as sophisticated, but that's sort of what diversity has always meant to me, is just being able to make sure that everyone around you is comfortable. The way my parents had taught me and the way we grew up is just love everyone. And it sounds a little cheesy, but it's true. Just be a good person and put the best out there that you can, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of anyone's background. It's so important to be able to just be loving and accepting of everyone else. And it sounds a little preachy, probably, but it's something that was like very, you know, ingrained into our household, into the environment that we grew up in. And it also helps to become the person that you are today. It's so important to be able to just be loving and accepting of everyone else. And sounds a little preachy.
But yeah, I agree with you. Growing up mixed race, my parents always taught us that the baseline is respect. My father always talks about when he has a very heavy French accent. So when he came to America, he would just go up to people and ask them, you know, do you have the time? But when he would say it, it sounded, do you have a dime? They would interpret the word time because of his accent as dime, and they would laugh at him. And he always talks to us about that experience of being made to feel not necessarily like the other, but to be made feel insignificant and small. So I think that both of you are spot on in having that baseline understanding of, you know, comfort and respect of the other individual. I have a hard time with the definitions of nationality, ethnicity, and race, because I feel like you can be multiple things at the same time. And with race, I feel like the most agreed upon definition of race is probably a group of people who have the shared physical characteristics. But the problem with mixed people is that depending on who you're speaking with, depending on how you look, that person may or may not interpret that person. I mean, I'm sure mixed race people have had what they look like be different across the board from different people. So that's why I don't really agree with that definition of race. And I agree more with the definition of race that my parents taught us, is that there's one human race and that there are multiple ethnicities and nationalities, and you can have both at the same time. It's not like one cancels out the other.
Right. It's not one or the other. It's
exactly
saying that it's like othering yourself in a sense. But it's so important to just be accepting, and, you know, regardless of background. It's something that's super important to myself as well as my family, and, you know, just making friendships, right? That's how you make friends, is you're just really accepting and respectful of the other person that you're communicating with. But I totally agree with you in the sense of it's not one or the other. Super important. Absolutely.
Before we move on to Hele, I just want to shout out Burhi to Keste. Thank you for this discussion. It's a timely one and much needed at this time.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching, Burhi, and I hope that this is an important topic that you will learn from, and you'll learn from all of our panelists and our guests. Hele, tell us what your definition of diversity is, and your definition of race, ethnicity, nationality.
Not easy task. So just to say that I have really supporting family. I am really happy because this was my brother and my big brother.
Oh, that's so sweet.
He's really sweet. I'm really happy. So thank you, Verhe, for this message. For me, diversity is really an open definition. I mean, I agree with Fred when he was saying that every person is unique. So if every person is unique, for me, uniqueness is much more important than diversity, because everyone is diverse. I want to also introduce another aspect. I'm not sure if you mention it, because I had some problems with my connection. But also, so there is a matter of race, but it is also a matter of age. In Italy, is an aging country, so it's really important to tackle also as an aspect of a person, but also disability is. We have lots of disability we can't really see with our eyes, but we have perception to have in front of us a person with some sort of difficulty. So for me, diversity, Article 3 in the Italian Constitution, that is equal, everyone is equal, and is the duty of the Republic to remove every obstacle. Everyone is equal without interest of race, of age. This is really important for us. Was talking about diversity and inclusion. This article of the Constitution will include also the person who doesn't have level or is migration.
You're coming in and
out. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. You're just a little bit frozen. Oh, now.
I'm sorry about it.
Oh, it's not your fault.
It's okay.
It happens.
A byproduct of COVID. It's totally normal. Do you want to finish your sentence? Oh no, I think you're totally
frozen. If you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have few minutes. I only have few minutes in which I can speak, and then it froze. So I'm really sorry.
It's fine.
It's fine.
You can finish your sentence. You can finish your idea.
Okay. So the idea is that. So we are equal, but there is also duty from the state to remove our difficulties. In the sense that we were talking, so if a person is diverse because of his race or his nationality, help him or help her to remove this obstacle. For example, the biggest issue in Italy is about how people can become Italian if a law of the citizenship so restrict. So working on this, there is a public debate, but it's really hard to change this citizenship law. So this is a big obstacle for us. And yes, I think I'm done.
Yeah, so what Heli is talking about is the concept of jus solis / jus sanguinis, and Fred is an expert in this, he can talk about it. But America is a jus solis, meaning if you are born on American territory like me to non-American parents, my parents are not American, you will still be American. But if I move abroad as an American and I have a child abroad, my child will be American because I am American. Italy has laws to protect the Italian diaspora, meaning if you have Italian heritage in your background, I think it probably goes up to great-grandfather, Fred, but Fred will specify later on, you can get Italian citizenship. I have Italian citizenship even though I was not born in Italy because my mother is Italian. So if you are currently born in Italy, on Italian territory, you're born and raised there, you will not enjoy Italian citizenship or Italian residency until you apply at 18. But Fred made a whole documentary on it.
Yeah, but it's correct. It's correct. So it's of course when your parents are both immigrants and they didn't naturalize, and so they don't have the Italian citizenship. If you are born in the territory of Italy, you are not Italian citizen. Automatically, you have to wait 18 years old to apply for the citizenship. And Yelin said that for me, an important thing. I know that this is much more an Italian thing, but the Article 3 of the Italian Constitution said that is the duty of the Republic of Italy to remove every obstacle. And I think this is the problem. I don't think that the Republic remove the obstacle of inclusion. I was born and raised in Italy with the citizenship, so I didn't have any particular issue of citizenship, but I have other issues, like I think many other minorities. So unfortunately, there is a lot of work to do, and I think that we don't have the institution that are approaching this matter in the right way, with the right investment, because building diversity in a nation, in a community, is like building infrastructure. It's like building bridges, highway. So you need, of course, some theories, some methodology. It's not just okay, we can join together and we need to be the friend of each other. So it's a real still hard work that starts in many parts of the institution, like the school. And of course, everything that is represented by the institution. I'm talking also about the law enforcement. I'm talking for everything. And the other part is the work of the media. And in both directions, I think that in Italy, unfortunately, also when the government is funding the 50% of the Italian film industry and the 60% of the television in Italy, they didn't do nothing in 40 years to bring diversity in a conscious way. Sometimes happen to have, you mentioned summertime, next April 21st, also Netflix Italy will release a series called Zero, in which all the cast is a Black Italian young actor, so they will be amazing. But these are exceptions, it's not a work behind the scene with the intention.
You brought up a really interesting point about methodology. One of the questions that I have is, are we using the correct terms? Is the term diversity an appropriate term to engulf or encapsulate these ideas? And I'm asking because I discovered a new term on Clubhouse called ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves. And people who utilize that terminology tend to separate Americans that are descendants of slaves from African people. Should we, for example, in the gender sphere, there's a lot of different titles that we can use: non-binary, transgender, transmasculine, transfeminine. Should we start to adopt more specific language? Or is the term diversity a sufficient term for these types of ideas that we're discussing? Aya, do you want to elaborate on maybe what you think about this?
It's very interesting, actually. So in regards to your question, I have not heard of that term, but I think I can at least from like, I mean, I'm not Black and I'm not an American descendant of slaves. So the term to me, like, just the idea of having the word slaves or slavery in there, it kind of bothers me, because I feel like that term itself is just, othering that specific, culture, or not culture, I'm sorry, I misspoke, that specific, type of group of people. So I can't speak from experience on that, but just hearing this new term, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, is that actually a thing? I mean, there are names for everything now, like especially with the rise of individualism rather than male, female, and that's it. So with specific terms in regards to gender, so I find that phrase very interesting, actually. I'd be curious to hear what Helene and friends feel about it, or how they might think about it. I think it's definitely something worth talking about.
Yeah, I think the rise of this term, this separation of different people within the Black community who have different experiences is interesting, because on the coattails of that, Columbia University scheduled different graduations based on the cultural identity of the students. So you had a graduation for low-income students, and you had a graduation for Latino students, and then Latino/Hispanic students, and then you had a graduation for Black students. So I don't know if it's the right way to go to have all of these subdivisions and subcategories and sub-separations, because we don't know what the effects of that can be. It could be potentially more divisive than inclusive.
Yeah, right. That's sort of my initial thought with that, is it was more just exclusive rather than inclusive. But yeah. I don't. It's a new term for me, so I'm kind of surprised to hear about it, actually.
Yeah. Can I add something? And because I need to leave.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm sorry. I totally forgot.
I just want to say I recommend this wonderful book that introduced me into my journey studying diversity. That is Whistling Vivaldi. The author is Claude M. Steele. It's a wonderful book. It's very focused on diversity, especially as a stereotype and bias, and how can unfortunately remove our empowerment. So if we understand many things, we can remove, of course, why we are stuck. And as you see, there are a lot of terms. So white, female, Latino, black, teen, gay, Indian, male, Asian. And very often we bring 7 or 8 of these identities inside us every day. So, but around the idea of talking about the descendant of slaves, I think that it's very important for me if we can, of course, adding a much more definition of different form of identities. So it's very important. And of course, we know that some of them are working universal because they're working everywhere. In the case of African descent slaves, I think is a particularity of United States, maybe Brazil, maybe other country. And I think maybe will be much more useful when they were approaching things about that are different things, affirmative action things or reparation things. In this case, of course, there is a sense why they are using this name, because for me, for the affirmative action, unfortunately, has never been paid back to the African American, and where other minorities that also came after that the action, and of course benefit of them. And so in this term it could be helpful, of course, in the term of diversity in general as universal task and duty that a lot of societies need to approach. I don't think have sense, because it's not something that it's helpful.
Okay, before you go, Fred, can you just leave your where people can find you, your Instagram, your Facebook, if people want to connect with you beyond this roundtable? Yeah,
sure. People can find me on. I launched a platform called blackitalia.info. Italia, it's like the name in Italian of Italy. And so people can find me there, or can find me with my Facebook page and my name. And then I will text to say thank you to everyone to join this conversation. So I'm very sad to leave, but I have to do another talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you for participating, Fred.
Bye. Thank you.
So Heli, we were talking about whether or not the term diversity is the proper term to use, or if we should use more specific language to identify more subgroups within the diversity subgroup.
I'm really sorry, because I have incredible problems in hearing. As if can you repeat the question?
Yes. Do you think the term diversity? Can you hear me now?
So sometimes it's free. So do you think? I think I have big troubles today.
Yeah, maybe if you try taking off the camera, it might be more.
Yeah. Okay, we'll try that.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just asking if the term diversity is the appropriate term to use to describe the ideas that we're talking about, or should we use more specific language the way gender has gender and biology have been doing so far. So in the gender discourse, you have lots of different terms to identify different people. And should we start adopting that methodology of using more specific language for different groups of people within the subgroup of diversity?
Well, I think that more than words are important, the concept, the idea that is behind that. So sometimes I can read lots of, it's sometimes I can hear it's not really, the need is not, for example, in Italy, not really too diversified, for example, in a business, in a company, the need is to save. For example, if I think about the disabled people, there are some discount on taxes and some relief if a company engage on disabled people. So if they recruit, but if a person has a different color of the skin or doesn't have the citizenship, it's really hard for them to get the same job. So it's like in Italy, it doesn't really means a lot, diversity, as far as I know it. But as a definition, it's something that can challenge at least the debate on this subject. So I would say, why not? We will follow the flow, and we will see. For example, when I started the second generation movement, we were the first one talking about being Italian, but being Black Italians. We were not talking about race. We were talking about belonging. So we will see ourselves, and we want us to be recognized as Italians, not only because we want a document, so we want a passport. I have already had the Italian passport at that time, but we want to be recognized. So it's a matter of recognition, I think, diversity. Yes.
Can you clarify the term second generation? Because here in America, we say first generation. Can you clarify what second generation means in Italy?
Well, second generation is not really accepted by everyone. Some of the second generation, they define themselves first generation, as you said before. But our network, that was the first one, we were kind of pioneers. So we thought about using the second generation as a concept that find its origin in sociology. So when the studies about the immigration started, they defined the second generation, the person that were born from the people who were moved to the country. So the person who moved to the country was the first generation, and then the person who's born or raised in the country is the second generation. And so this is why we call us, and we define ourselves as second generation. But then as soon as it comes to third generation, as I said, I am a parent, so it doesn't really make sense. So we need to switch and to change the subject and the concept. So I think that diversity is okay for now. Diversity is something that challenges us to include our other people, to speak about the gender pay gap, for example. So there is a huge problem in Italy about the differences in not really in education. So we have the same level of graduates, women and men are graduated and educated at the same level, but we had an enormous problem in the pay gap. So if diversity could help this conversation, that I'm okay with that. And if this is global, it's okay. So as I mentioned before, the Black Lives Matter movement, it really helped in Italy. So it really helped to boost the conversation about racism in Italy as well. It's really something new for us, and I think we will need few years really to understand what we are talking about and to accept the Italians and that as a diversified as I can people. So not only white and not only Catholic, not only men. So we also have the LGBT family. We as a conservative country, it's really hard for the people of the same gender to have their children recognized in Italy. So there are lots of fights to start and to take on, and I think that diversity is a good place to start.
Yeah, I agree. And you brought up Black Lives Matter, which has been a powerful movement, of course, in America, but has had resounding effects throughout the globe. It's just been a way to, I think, further bring attention to diversity, or the lack of diversity, or the lack of inclusion in different workspaces, and the disparate treatment of different individuals. And I think that the experience with Black Lives Matter hopefully will trickle down to the activism towards Asian and Asian Americans, especially in light of what happened in Atlanta last week or 10 days ago. Aya, do you want to speak a little bit about how you've been digesting that unfortunate, tragic event? I just want to preface that I reached out to Aya based on a post that she posted about the language and the rhetoric surrounding the activism for Asians and Asian Americans.
Yes. So I believe that was in the diversity dish group.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So when I first heard about it, it hit home, honestly. It was tough because my sister is actually a day spa owner. So that could have been my family. That could have been my sister. It could have been any one of us. And thankfully we live in Massachusetts, which is a little bit more progressive, which is nice. And so but the possibility that it could have happened is it's terrifying. I believe I spoke on I saw this image. It was very interesting. I forget who originally posted it, but I saw this image where there's the hashtag of Stop Asian Hate, right? So that was crossed out, and it was replaced underneath it with, I believe, Stop White Supremacy, which I personally don't feel like they belonged in the same image, because crossing out Stop Asian Hate absolutely canceled out the idea of, just the Asian community. That's kind of what it felt like to me. It kind of felt like all lives matter. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't sit right with me about this particular image. And yes, I understand that they have a similar message, but I believe they're two separate things, that crossing out one is not going to empower the other. And I personally, it didn't feel right to me with that, because even being half Japanese, it was something that was so important to me, being able to speak out against this. I mean, I personally, I don't go to protests because I don't like large crowds. Large crowds scare me. I'm only 4'10", so but I still feel like I needed to do my part. I need to just say what I felt in my heart that day. And not just me, but for Asian Americans or Asian immigrants in this country, or even not in this country, in any country really, we're not a fetish. We're much more than the food you eat. People will love to eat our food, but they don't want to love our people. And it just hurts, so it definitely hits home. So I feel like now there's kind of backed by the Black Lives movement, in a sense, Black Lives Matter movement, in a sense. There's definitely a rise in the Stop Asian Hate or Stop AAPI Hate. There's definitely a rise in that. So it was something that I definitely felt very strongly about. So I appreciate you reaching out and allowing me to be a part of this discussion. So thank you.
Of course. I think that unity is very, very important. And I think that it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning of the discussion, the respect and understanding of the uniqueness of each individual, and creating these different spaces where one can articulate his or her feelings and really create and foster a bridge for understanding. Helly, how was the tragedy in Atlanta discussed in Italy? And do you know how the Italian Asian community reacted? Was it discussed in the media at all?
Well, that's a good question. I'm just thinking that I haven't heard much about it. I'm not sure if I am the person who is not informed, or if it's something that the media has not passed through. So I'm really sorry about that. And I felt really a resonance, like I really felt close to the feelings that Aya was saying about, and I'm really sorry for what is happening. I know something through some friends that are Chinese second generation, so they are taking in the conversation about the Asian hate, and this is what I know. I don't have really an opinion. I don't think that we are. I think we are on the same boat. I don't think we must treat this thing differently from the Black Lives Matter movement. So we need to bond and to stay together.
Absolutely.
Against xenophobia. And yes, are you saying?
So just like a quick recap of what had happened in Georgia. I believe, I forget how old he was, but a white male went into a day spa and he shot up the entire place, and I believe 8 people passed away, 8 Asian Americans, or those of Asian descent. And it was absolutely tragic. And he told the media and he told the police that it was a sexual fetish for him. And but let's call it what it really is, right? Let's call it hatred. It's racism. It's xenophobia. It's awful. And it somehow doesn't surprise me that it hasn't reached outside of the country. And I say that because I do have a friend in Australia. She reached out to me and she was like, I had no idea. I had to Google it, and it was terrifying. So I feel like the media's view, coming from a journalism background, I feel very strongly about this, that it depends on who you look at in terms of watching the media, whether it's TV, radio, or digital journalism. So it was an awful event that definitely has started this rise in being able to have unity and be there for our fellow BIPOC, especially like backing the like Black Lives Matter movement, and stopping this Asian hate. Absolutely, we need to be unified and we need to speak out against it.
Do you think that maybe it hasn't received media coverage, or as much media coverage as it should outside of the States, because it came from an individual as opposed to an institution? Whereas for example, in the case of George Floyd, it was, the law enforcement who committed a tragedy, killed him. Whereas in this case, it was a private actor, private individual, or just a young guy who committed a hate crime. Do you think that that's probably why it hasn't received as much attention as it should?
Maybe that could definitely be a possibility. I still find that it's very important to be able to know about these issues. But with the Black Lives Matter movement, there was also defund the police, and that sort of movement, and being able to get the justice that should have been served for George Floyd. So that could be a potential, but it's still, maybe it's being a business owner. It is something that was brought to my attention immediately, as well as being an Asian American. So it may have affected different people in different ways, but that could be potential, because the police are supposed to be representatives of our government, right? So to have that happen, it speaks for a large portion of the United States and for the government. So it was probably definitely very stronger. It was probably stronger because of that aspect. But it I don't know.
It doesn't make it any less important. I understand.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't think of the right words.
Yeah. I'm actually shocked that it wasn't further discussed outside of the U.S. I think that the U.S. is known for being an international, multicultural, multiracial country.
Melting pot.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I expected people from outside of the U.S. to have, a similar understanding that we do. We're almost out of time, but I want to ask you guys, how can we be better? How can we be better in our personal lives as regular individuals and in our professional lives in terms of leading diversity and inclusion initiatives in our work? Kelly, do you want to give a couple of suggestions?
Well, I'll try. I will give it a go. So I think that I'm back on a journey because I had to be aware of what I am. So what I'm trying to do is to engage people that I know, friends and family member, on a conversation. As for example, about the Eritrean and so the colonial past of Italy in Eritrea, that is my country of origin. So I just started to ask people if they know something about the colonial history, and few of them know something. So I'm just trying to engage people on conversation of something that regards their family and see if we have something in common. And because we have history in common, then we can bond together and can try to overcome this wave of hate and racism that is just performing, I think, globally now at the moment. So one of the points is to speak and to learn more about our past, to do something for our future. I recently took a course at Harvard University in the history of the American history of race and democracy, and it was really helping me to engage conversation and to in Italy as well. So also try to connect with people abroad that we know, and to try to make connection as we are doing today is really, really helpful. From this, lots of my friends will ask me, what is diversity to you? What are you doing? And this is really important. The second thing is talking about the everyday racism that everyone is, I think, is experiencing. I experience episodes of everyday racism every day. And also my child is experiencing this. So becoming aware of everyday racism and try to tackle it every day. So it's a constant challenge. And I think we are doing the best that we can. I don't always have the same energy to do it, but this time I feel really plenty of energy. So I think this time I will do something good, and I will stand for my education in research, because I want to go through a PhD and writing about citizenship and also anti-discrimination. So I'm trying to tackle the things that I believe both on my everyday life, but also on my job. And I think this is what we can do. We can talk with our family members and see if there is something that we can do in our families as well. There are lots of things we can do, I think.
I completely agree. You brought up a really great point about energy. It does take a lot of energy to educate, inform, teach people. And it's actually one of the reasons why we left Italy, because it is very draining every day to have to, almost almost prove yourself, almost prove your worthiness, almost prove your equality. It really breaks my heart. Everyone knows that if you don't know who's watching, I'm very active on TikTok, and the second generations in Italy, they are very, very active in voicing their opinions about their treatment and I always say this, it's almost as if they have to prove that they are worthy of being Italian by, you know, going to university, saying that they speak perfect Italian, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting educating and informing people. And frankly, you know, I always joke and say this to my husband, it's not my job to be smart for me and for other people. And I just wish that people would take more accountability for their ignorance and their lack of knowledge and take active steps like we are doing to make a difference in our personal experiences and our professional experiences. AM?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of those things. That's very, very good points. I think one thing is to definitely engage and with our family members or with our friends, the people we surround ourselves with, as well as listen. I think being able to speak your opinion is very, very important, but people also have experiences to bring to the table as well. And that will really help with the unity in terms of diversity and this entire topic of being able to celebrate diversity. Just definitely engaging and listening and, you know, just being able to respect one another regardless of your background, and acknowledging the background and just saying, yeah, I understand. I get it. It's tiring. Sometimes you just don't have the energy, but you know, sometimes you do. And that's when you're able to engage and to be able to be there for others.
I'll just add that in order to do better, I think that it's important that we study. We study the voices of people who came before us. We study the initiatives, whether it's through film, through art, through academia. We just study as much information as possible to be able to have thoughtful, non-threatening conversations with other people. So that's my number one tip. And a really simple way for those of you who are watching is to, you know, engage in low cost or free courses online. One of my favorite online academies is Coursera.org. You know, it is, most of the courses are free or low cost. If you want to upgrade for $50, you can get like a certificate from, you know, U of Penn or something. You can put it up in your office. It's just a nice perk of being able to study online for free or for low cost. I know we don't have libraries open right now, but we have Google and we have the internet, and there's so many resources out there in terms of studying critical race theory, gender studies, the transgender identity, and things like that. So really, really, really important to have a rigorous academic / studious approach to understanding these topics that sometimes are uncomfortable for us and for other people. Definitely. And I would say number 2 is lead by example. So in my office, we have all different backgrounds, all different perspectives, all different cultural identities, languages. These are things that are part of my value system as an attorney and as an individual. And having talks like this, even though this talk about diversity and inclusion doesn't necessarily connect with my practice area, I'm an immigration attorney for creatives, artists, entertainers, performers. I still think that it is my duty as a leader, as a woman of color, to foster these discussions and to not shy away from them when maybe other attorneys or other business owners, you know, don't take that step and that initiative. Because as a woman and a woman of color attorney and a business owner, the statistics of my representation are very, very small. So I really hope that people who are watching this are going to share these videos, because it's important for young women, for women of color, for immigrant women to see our faces, to hear our voices, because you don't know who you're gonna meet, who you're gonna touch, who you're going to make a light bulb put off. So I strongly advocate by studying, being studious, being an academic, and number 2, leading by example. Be the boss that you wanted to have when you were younger. Be the mentor that you wanted to have when you were younger. Be that go-to person for young people that you wanted to have when you were at the beginning of your career. It is so enriching. It is so powerful. It is so life-changing. And one of the reasons why I decided to become an attorney is because I wanted to live just beyond my little world. I didn't want to just live, Elektra and my family. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives and make a difference in the world. And that's why I chose the legal profession, because it's such a noble profession. The same thing with digital marketing, changing businesses, impacting sales, making money move, because that's the basis of American culture and identity. And the same with Heli, having this academic activist approach for, the second gens, the third gens in Italy, and also most importantly for her son. For your son, for your child who is living this experience and will continue to live this experience, but seeing your strength, your dedication, your tenacity is going to make a difference in his life and his friends' lives and all the people around you. So really, guys, whoever's watching, lead by example. Be that person that you needed when you were younger. Set the bar high for yourself and for those around you. Don't let ignorance win. Don't let laziness win. It's hard to be smart. It's hard to be studious, but it is worth it. It's worth it for you, for your world, for the people, and for all of us in general. So those are my 2 tips. Be studious and be a leader.
Thank you. Thank you, Elektra.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any parting words before we go? We went a little bit over an hour, but I want to give the panelists an opportunity to just name drop their websites, where they hang out, so that we can, you, the viewer, can continue these conversations with them and see how you can impact each other even beyond this conversation. So Aya, tell us your website again, your Instagram handle if you're on Instagram, and any other details that people need to reach out to you.
So my website is Tiny Dragon Bites. That's BYTES.com. And my social handles, I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram. That is Tiny Dragon Bites. My personal is Tiny Dragon, but instead of an O, it's a 0. I thought I was cool. So, but I would love a follow. That would be amazing. And please visit my website. And if you are a small business owner, I would love to be able to work with you and have a conversation with you and see how I might be able to help you out and tell your unique story. That's what I'm all about. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Everybody, support small businesses and minority-owned businesses.
Yes. 100%.
Heli, where can we find you? Where can we hang out and connect with you in the digital world?
I don't have a business page, but I have my personal Facebook page, which is Heli Tech. And this is because I use this name because when I was a teacher, I didn't want really to be searched by the students. So it's HELLY Tech, TEK. And also, if I have a minute, I would like to introduce really this project I have. I sing with a choir, and we are all women. We are 20 women, plus the director, we're 21. And we have also musician, and we are working on a project with a percussion orchestra. And so we are trying to raise funds for our first EP. And also to find our dancers. And the name of the band is Lingo Choir. It's lingo like languages. And we do word music. And I think this is connected to our conversation on diversity. So I had this opportunity to join both this amazing group of women and also to learn different languages. So I can sing in Greek and I can sing in Spanish and in different languages. And we are also like exploring African music that I didn't have idea. So I'm also exploring my origin. So the choir is called Lingo, and I just say hi to my friends because I'm sure they will appreciate. And on this page, you will find that you can find it on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find a direction for the crowdfunding. Even just a hi or a help or a share would be amazing.
Do you want to sing a little song for us?
Which one?
I don't know. You said you sing in Greek. I've never heard Greek
Oh no, please.
Italian or French, or just so that we can hear your voice, so that
No, this is really embarrassing. Please,
followers.
unless you sing with me, because I really like to sing along with other people.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't sing.
If it's a famous song, then I'll sing it.
You two can sing.
No, please.
What song?
I don't know. Elektra, do you know any Italian song?
I used to be obsessed with Tiziano Ferro, but I don't have like a baritone voice.
I love him.
I like Mina. I like the famous people, Mina. You know what's been stuck in my family's head like this whole week? My husband is obsessed with the song La Canzone Intelligente.
La canzone intelligente. I don't know. It's like a new one. It's a Sanremo.
Cantar una canzone intelligente. Oh my God, maybe it's just my husband and his weird obsessions. But no, so my little daughter goes around singing like she wants to sing La Canzone Intelligente. Who else do I really like in Italian? Oh my God, what's his name? Lucio Battisti.
Yes.
What's that famous song that my husband always like sings to me?
This is really funny. I can even imagine a moment like this. Thank you.
No, my husband is like he's not like a typical Italian guy. He's like he's very creative, very, out of the box guy. But I think that we should sing a song that people who are viewing us in America would know. I grew up with musical theater. I love musical theater, but maybe we can sing like, I don't know, who's famous in America right now?
God.
I was thinking about Bella Ciao. I don't know why, but all people knows it, and I learned it when I was really young, and I discovered that people abroad knows Bella Ciao. It's a liberation song.
My mom calls it the communist song.
Yes, in a certain way. When I was a child, I was taught at public school, so I was in the nursery, and then it became a communist song, but it was not at the origin.
I only know Bella Ciao. Bella Ciao, 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 da na 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 da
Mi sono svegliato e ho trovato l'invaso.
I don't know the words.
Oh, you don't know that. Okay, I will send you the words, and then we can just have like this song, because we have we have the Liberation Day on the 25th of April, so we can just meet together and have this song. Last year, I participated to a recording, so we record from we're on pandemic, and it was amazing. We were like hundreds of people recording the same song, and then somebody took mix it all together, and yeah, it was.
That's so
happy.
cool.
It was a happy moment.
We can sing, and you can join into. We can sing "Happy Birthday." It's a song that everybody knows.
I'm not a singer, so I will spare the audience. But
Can you be the percussion? Can you be the percussion?
Sure.
Okay, so on 1, 2, 3, Helly will sing "Happy Birthday." Okay.
Yeah, to who?
Right?
Whose birthday is it? Well, it celebrates Diversity Month, so we can sing "Happy Birthday, Diversity."
Okay.
Sure.
All right, so you're the percussion.
Okay. There we go.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to
you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Diversity. Happy birthday to you.
Yay!
And thank you to the lovely percussionist, Aya, and the soprano, Helly.
Brilliant.
So thank you guys so much for participating. Thank you everybody for watching. As you know, I'm going to be doing 2 celebrations every week. So April is also International Internship Month and National Volunteer Awareness Month. So on Monday, we're going to talk about how to get an internship, the importance of an internship, why you should get an internship, especially during COVID times. And on Friday, we'll talk about the social impact of volunteering, what you can do as a volunteer, where you can find volunteer options, and if you're not interested in volunteering, how you can utilize your volunteer experience for your professional business career. So
absolutely,
you guys will.
You're
I
amazing.
also believe today is National Autism Awareness Day. I believe.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing about April. Like February was dedicated to Black History Month, and then March was dedicated to Women's History Month. But April, there's so many different celebrations that it was just too hard to choose from. It's also National Decorating Month. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to do 2 roundtables per week, and to talk about issues that I think will directly impact people, especially now during COVID. But yes, you're right. Today is National Autism Awareness Day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. I appreciate it.
Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you guys so much for participating. And for those of you who are watching, I will see you back on Monday for National Internship Month. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
And to those who celebrate, happy Passover. To those who've already celebrated it. Bye, everybody.